Topics with Donna. And on this show, we do one thing: keep it real hot. That's honest, open, and transparent. If you didn't know, now you know. So sit back and unwind as we bring the vibe and a little bit of glorious sunshine to your heart, soul, and mind. Your lovely host, Hot Donna, will be with you in just a few moments. But while you wait, go ahead and set an atmosphere of peace in your space. If you can, cut the lights down low, get your hydration on, vibration zone. Cause tonight, you're about to receive some delicious food for your soul. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? It's about to get hot. You are indeed in the one and only place to be this evening. We appreciate you for joining us, and in just a few moments, we about to turn the heat all the way up. That's right. It's about to go down right now on Hot Topics with Donna. Show your virtual love by smashing that thumbs up and heart icon as many times as you can. And without further ado, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing your host, the one and only Hot Donna.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Hot Topics with Donna. I am your host, Donna Taylor, here from DTV. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Week after week, a whole year and a half later, you guys are still following me, sharing my content. We are so excited. I want to say thank you. Before I bring my guest on, here's my book, An Imperfect Marriage Saved by Grace. I'm so thankful that I was able to complete that project. So thankful. Just really thankful. And so also, let me tell you guys something. Like, I've been doing this for a year, almost a year and a half. But on Saturday, for those of you that have been following me on Hot Topics with Donna, the one and only me, I'm going to be presented with the humanitarian award for Sadie Roberts Joseph. And I am so honored. Like, so if you can make it, I will, if you want to make it and come support me, I will post the flyer again. Thank you for everyone that has been, saying thank you, I deserve it. Guys, this has truly been a blessing for me. I cannot thank God enough for what he's doing in my life. I'm so excited. Hey, Tony. Hey, Audrey. Hey, Paul. But I'm going to go ahead so I can bring my guest on. So listen, the word that I chose today for us is freedom. And it says, we have freedom now because Christ made us free. Go stand strong. And that come from Galatians 3:1. And so that's the word that I chose for my guests, for you, for my viewers. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on, and we're just going to have some fun tonight. Hold on. But like I said, thank you for sharing my my flyers. Thank you for sharing our content. Just thank you. We don't take it for granted. We are truly grateful. Hello. Can you hear me?
Well, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can hear you.
My headphones don't seem to be working when I go through this I guess this Facebook tool.
Uh-huh. Oh, but I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, that's fine. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking. And certainly a pleasure to be here on the show with you, and I am so looking forward to our conversation. And hopefully, we can share some information that some people can get some answers. That's why we do what we do. It's all
That's
about.
what we do. Yes.
Yeah,
And I mean,
absolutely.
I went through, but before we get into that, so the word that I chose for you today and for my viewers is freedom. Because the reason why I chose freedom is because of what we're going to be talking about later is the 12 principles to inner peace. And so I chose freedom because when I was looking at all of these 12 words, I'm like, you have to be free. There has to be a level of freeness to even start this inner peace. So how do you feel about freedom?
Well, my story, if you're familiar with my story, I was trapped in active addiction for over 20 years of my life.
Wow.
And so I know what it's like to not be free, to be motivated and encouraged to do something that's against my own will, right? So many days I didn't want to go get loaded, but because there was something inside of me, I wasn't free from that, which was really myself, really. And so freedom, we in third world countries or free nations, freedom is the ideal. That's what we look for. We all want to be free.
Right.
And what do we want to be free from? Most of the time it's free from law. But we can't be free from law.
No.
See, the highest degree of freedom doesn't come by just letting it all hang out, doing what we want to do.
Absolutely.
The highest level of freedom comes from contemplated thought and correct corresponding decisions. That's what's going to give us the highest degree of freedom. When I was living in the homeless shelter, because I wasn't living a lifestyle of integrity and morality, they told me when to go to bed, when to eat, when to get up, when to leave, and when to come back. Right?
And so with that addiction and you not being free, how was the addiction something that how can I say, was it that you was hanging with the wrong people at the wrong time, or was it self-inflicted all on your own?
Great question. So a lot of people in our society don't really understand addiction. Addiction is really not about a substance or activity. It's really, that's the sign, right? Addiction is about a thinking. But what happened was I started using marijuana because of, people that I was hanging with at an early age. And it was recreational use, right?
Right.
And it was just, we're just getting high, right?
Right.
Well, what happened is that helped develop my coping mechanism. So I found a way to alter my state of being.
Right.
I didn't have to feel hurt. I didn't have to feel lonely. I didn't have to feel mad. I could go and alter that state.
Yeah.
And so what happens is there's an invisible line between recreational use and full-blown addiction. But what happens, we don't know that we've crossed that line until after we cross that line.
Wow.
And so then it's like a pickle. Once a pickle becomes a cucumber, once a cucumber becomes a pickle, it can never go back and be a cucumber.
Right.
And so that's what happened. I did not know. And I'm be honest with you, Donna, some of the people that I was hanging with, they really cared about me. If they knew it was going to take me where it did, I'm sure they would not have introduced me or engaged with me in getting loaded. But they didn't know.
Wow.
I didn't know.
Well, let's stop right there and then we're gonna pick up. So tell people who you are, where you from, and we're gonna keep going right on because this is good.
So, I'm Talk When Talk. I am originally from North Carolina. I grew up on a 500-acre farm in Duplin County, North Carolina. Very proud of that. I left there. I went in the military. I am a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. I am a motivational speaker, life coach, and author. I have dealt with addiction on one side or the other for the majority of my life. Wow. And April of next year, I'll have 19 years clean and sober, right? And so my passion as Talk Man Talk I speak to inspire, motivate, and educate people from every walk, focusing on 12 spiritual principles
Yeah.
to inner peace and freedom from active addictions. That has become my purpose. That
Wow.
is now my passion.
Right, right. And so, as you were in your addiction from just using marijuana, just, having a good time, but when did you know that you were in trouble?
I had I had always functioned because I grew up working. We worked 7 days a week on that farm. It didn't matter what happened, we went to work, right?
Right.
Uh, and so I was a functioning addict for a long time until I started getting loaded when I didn't want to.
Mm.
And I had periods of time over the years where I stopped,
Mm-hmm.
but I would always start back, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Hmm.
was like I couldn't stay away from it.
Right.
I could at periods of times, I could change the people, places, and things as they talk about, but I would somehow go back because
Mm-hmm.
I had developed, this mechanism in my brain that
Mm-hmm.
anytime I was uncomfortable and did not want to feel what I was feeling, reality,
Absolutely. Yes,
I
yes.
could change it. I could change
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
And so my first rehab, I said, you know what? That's it. I was in Newark, New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a chauffeur for a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself downtown Newark in the morning smoking crack in the back of a limo. I
Mm.
said, you know what? I'm getting ready to go to jail. It's supposed to get ready to happen to me, right?
Absolutely.
And I said, I need to get some help. And
Right.
so, I was married at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
I had always functioned, and that was a hard admission for me to make that I'm an addict.
Right.
My mom told me, she said, you wouldn't do it, you wouldn't say it, you just would not say it.
Right.
Because I didn't want to feel like nothing, that
Right.
I could
Right.
not beat nothing.
Mm.
But it wasn't until I really admitted that I couldn't beat it. After the 12th rehab, I said, you know what? Maybe I can't beat this.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you for but Timothy, let me ask you this. So when when we have addictions, whether it's marijuana, whether it's crack, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, whether it's shopping, at what point do we get to like you and say, I can't beat this? There has to be something different. Because if you keep doing the same thing and keep getting the same result, at what point was it for you to say, was it when you was just found yourself just going spiraling down, if you will, and you're like, I'm getting the same result?
Well, it was, I had seen that early on about my third or fourth rehab when I kept going back. Because when I went in that first rehab, I said, "That's it. I'm not doing it no more. I'm done."
Right.
And then when I finished that treatment, that program, about 2 weeks later, I was getting loaded again, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Wait a minute." And see, here's the thing. Here's what's so key, Donna,
Yes.
is that the majority of our society looks at the drug use, the alcohol use, the gambling as the problem.
Mm,
That is not the problem. That is a symptom
mm.
of the problem. It's
Right.
kind of like how a runny nose is a symptom of a cold.
Right.
So
Right.
a lot of times we address the activity, the
Mm-hmm.
drinking, the smoking, the whatever, but that's only a symptom. The
Right.
root cause, you know what the root cause is? Is a lack of self-government.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that's why Jesus said in Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom and
Yes.
his righteousness. That
Yes.
is a government, self-government. I did not know how to live.
Mm.
I
Mm.
did I didn't know how to live. I could do a lot of things. I was pretty smart on my feet. I
Mm-hmm.
was good
Mm-hmm.
at just about anything I put my hand to,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know how to live.
And so, in your addiction stage, was it easy for you to get the drugs, or was it that you were taking money from your household, or did drugs just like find you, if you will. You know, because some people say, oh, when I'm with this group, it was just automatically, you know, it was there. It was always attainable.
Oh yeah, you know the era that I come from, and I just had that personality. You can drop me off anywhere in the desert, and I'll make a friend, right? But I was always, because I worked so hard.
Right.
So I always worked. I can remember, being in an organization and getting 15 minutes of sleep and go work the whole next day. Get
Wow.
off, get 2 hours of sleep all night and just go back to work the next day. So it wasn't until the end where, the finding ways and means to get more, taking from my family. I did go through that. Yeah, I'm not going to try to sugarcoat that because
Absolutely.
it's not something that I'm very proud of, but I did go through that towards the end. But
Mhm.
early on, in active addiction, I worked. I was a functioning addict for a long, long time.
Wow. Wow. And so
But
how did it affect your family? Knowing that the
oh,
person that they love and knowing who you are as a person, like did your mom ever say, where did I go wrong? Did your, did they say what happened? Where did we miss it? Where did we lose him at?
well, I was always a very hyper kid. And,
Mm-hmm.
and so I stayed in trouble, right? And I don't think my parents really knew how to really deal with me, right? And I had a resentment for a lot of years. I had to work through that.
Right, right.
They could only give me what they knew. And what they
Absolutely.
knew was to send me to work or beat me, right? And
Right,
and those weren't the best methods.
right.
But they loved me. I never went homeless. I mean, I never went without a meal. I never not had a roof over my head. We always had Christmas gifts. I grew up in a family environment. And so I remember in the height of my addiction, they just were so fed up with me. My mom told me, and this was one of the things that really changed me, Donna, which made me go to that 12th rehab.
Wow.
One of them.
Mm.
My mom said, son, I was living in New York. My family had a business in New York. We were in Brooklyn, New York. I was running the streets night and day. I mean, I was hustling. I was making crazy, insane, right?
Right.
Uh, Living like a lunatic, right? And she
Mm-hmm.
said, son, I want you to know that I always love you. But
Mm-hmm.
I bought a $10,000 insurance policy to
Mm.
bury you with because you ain't going to make it.
Jesus. Mm.
And at that point, right,
Yeah.
I get choked up a little bit about it.
That's
She
okay.
was releasing her feelings, right?
Yes.
She
Yeah.
was she was saying, you know what, I've done all I could do.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do for you, but you ain't gonna make it. But it worked.
And and like you said, it's a hard pill to swallow, but for her as a mother, I can only imagine she's saying in her head, I know he's out here wilding out, but at least the least thing that I can do for him is give
Yeah,
him a proper barrier so I can know that he I don't have to worry about him anymore. And
yeah,
that has
yeah.
to be hard for her because it's like she's preparing for your death and it hasn't even happened yet, but she is seeing it right before her eyes because you were wilding out.
Yeah, she could see it. She could see the path
Yeah,
that I was on, and if
yeah,
I hadn't have changed, it would have been true. And that's why I bought a one-way ticket right out of New York. I said, "Look, I need to go to the other side of the world because in New York, my family, we had money, we had connections. People would give me dope, right?
right,
Because they knew I would get some money at some point, right? Which I would, and pay them back. And so, but what I really learned,
right. Hmm.
Donna, is it was never the dope. The dope was just a small part of the problem.
Absolutely.
My thinking was my problem.
Mm, mm, mm,
I had to, at 40 years old, I
mm.
had to unlearn and relearn how to live.
And
It was kind of like not everything that I was given growing up was
mhm.
bad
Right, right.
information, but I had to sit it to the side and filter through and put like you eat fish. I
Yeah.
had to pick
Yeah.
out the bones,
Right.
right? And
Right.
then I had to add the new information, these 12 principles
Mm.
that I promote and I live by. They saved my life. And I still practice these principles today.
And so these 12 principles, when did it come to you that these principles were going to be effective in helping people with their inner peace?
I was introduced to these principles early on. These are based on, you've heard of Alcoholics Anonymous, AA,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so there was these two guys, Dr. Bob and Bill W., who were part of an Oxford group. It was a Christian sect back in their
Right.
day. I think they've
Right.
dissolved now or call themselves something else.
Right.
And what they went into the Bible and they pulled out principles and created what we call the 12 steps.
Right.
AA, NA, CA, a whole lot of A's now, right?
Right. Right.
Well, what I did was I went back to the original principle that they created the step from.
Mhm.
And as I started after that 12th rehab, and I had been going to meetings, so I was very familiar with Narcotics Anonymous and AA and NA and those 12-step programs. But when I came out of that 12th rehab, I really took a dive into the Bible
Mhm.
and this 12-step process, these principles.
Right.
And I didn't realize it. You mentioned your book. It took me 5 years to write my book, Donna.
Wow.
5 years. Because I'm really not a writer. That's not my gift. My gift is
Right.
speaking. That's
Right.
what I love to do.
Right. Right.
But I was told that if I want to be considered a subject matter expert, then I had to become a published author, right? And so I sought out to write this book.
Right.
And I had read some books that people had written that I really didn't get anything out of, right? And I said, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that what I write, when someone picks up this book, they can get some information, some identification, some direction, right?
Yeah.
And so that was one of the struggles. But to answer your question specifically, it was after the book
Mm.
or writing the book that I realized these principles apply to everybody.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't
Right.
matter
Right.
the housewife, the mechanic, the kid in school, black, white, green, it doesn't matter. Single, married, short, tall. These principles are valid in the boardroom, the locker room, the classroom, the living room, even the bedroom. They
Absolutely.
are valid.
Yes, thank you guys for tuning in. And so it's funny that you say that these 12 steps, came out of the Bible from, AA. And so I was at work today, and you're going to trip out on this. So I looked up every word and I typed in, what does the Bible say about these words? And I was just like, wow. And I had no idea that that's how you came, because these 12 principles, they are deep. It may seem like small words, and I'm just going to tell the people the 12 principles to inner peace is honesty, integrity, forgiveness, hope, willingness, acceptance, faith, humility, awareness, courage, discipline, and gratitude. And I was like, wow, these are all the things that we need in order to be free as well. But for me, you have to be free up here in order to really live the life of these 12 principles.
Well, these 12 principles help me to get to freedom.
Right.
Because the first one is honesty, right?
Yeah. Right.
Until I admitted
That's the key.
that I had a problem, that I was addicted,
Mm-hmm.
right? Until I made that admission, I got honest with myself because for so many years I said, I'm not an addict, not
Right.
me.
Right. Right.
I'm not claiming that, right? And,
Right.
and even after I had been in the program around for a while, I said, I'm not claiming that, right? And I had to get some acceptance, right? So these principles, they're like a waltz, like a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can group them together.
Right.
But when it wasn't until I made that admission that, you know what, drugs and alcohol, using drugs and alcohol is a problem for me.
Right.
And if I ever want to live a different lifestyle, I have to make that admission that I am an addict and that my life had become unmanageable.
Let me see. I got a message. Tony said I'm trying to read it. My light. Hold on. And I'm going to tell you, which scripture do you think I picked for this one? Honesty.
Not
Tony
sure.
said, "I feel you, my brother." So the
Yeah,
one that I chose was John 8:32, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
absolutely, absolutely. And you know that Jesus spoke that, and that's and it says, it actually says continuing in the truth, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And it means continuing in the truth, and that's why we say we practice these principles, right?
absolutely.
Because nobody has them perfect. We practice them on a daily basis, right? And we get better day by day, day by day. It didn't happen for me overnight. It
Wow.
did. It didn't happen. I didn't become addicted in one day.
Yeah,
It took
absolutely.
years
Right,
for that to happen.
right.
And so, go ahead.
So these 12 principles, are they in the order that you became free, or is this how it came to you?
This is the order that, following the 12-step process,
Mm-hmm.
this is the order, because any kind of success is going to start out with honesty,
Right,
right?
right.
Once we get honest, then I got to get some hope, right? So now that honesty, what happened for me was when I got honest and I said, you know what, I don't know how to live.
Mm.
At that moment, I had a revelation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got mad with God. I was
Right,
mad,
right, right.
right? I had been, this was my 12th rehab. I'm 1,500 miles away from all of my family. I've been in a homeless shelter for 2 weeks, sleeping on the overflow. And I'm 40 years old. I've been around the world. I've worked for IBM and UPS and corporate America. And here I am, homeless, hopeless, and penniless. And I'm mad.
Wow.
And I hit my hand on the table and I said, God, why does this keep happening to me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's when I got the revelation that drugs and alcohol are not your problem. Your way of thinking is your problem. And at that moment, Donna, some hope came into me. First of all, I was shocked because I had never really experienced that before. You know, I
Right,
heard my
right,
grandmother talk about it, right? But I didn't know about God talking to me. I didn't know about that.
right, right.
Um, I hadn't been living, you know, I grew up in the church, but I hadn't been active in the church.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I knew this was God speaking to my spirit somehow.
Wow.
And I asked the question, well, how should I think? And the answer was, think in line with my word.
Wow.
That happened to me literally, right? And that hope came in. And then, right, so the faith, now I had to trust that this
Yeah,
new information that
absolutely.
I was receiving was going to help change my life.
Mm-hmm.
Not blind faith, but faith that that was that was evidence proof, right?
Right,
Like
right,
I grew up on a farm, and
right.
I know if you put apple seed in the dirt and it sprouts, it's going to be an apple tree.
Right.
Period.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of truth Jesus was talking about.
Right, right,
Principles. He says, "It's my good pleasure to give you the keys of the kingdom,
right,
not to the kingdom, the keys, and those keys are principles."
right.
That's another lesson.
Ah, yeah, yeah. So, and so then the second one is integrity. Like, did you lose your integrity at, I'm quite sure you did at some point, but if you did, how did you regain that?
Okay, boy, I love that. So, integrity. You know, we hear this. Say what you mean what you say, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
But it's so much deeper than that, Donna. This word integrity is the root word from the root word integrated,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
And what it really means is, you ready for something good?
I'm ready.
In the Bible, there's an instruction: be ye holy
Mm-hmm.
as I am holy,
Right,
right?
right, right,
That word holy and integrated come from the same word, and it means to be one.
right.
So integrity is my thoughts, my words, and my action as one.
Mm,
The Lord thy God is one.
Right,
He's
right.
not he's not one way at 2 o'clock in the morning and a different person at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Absolutely,
There's
absolutely.
no there's no dichotomy in my being.
Mm.
So that took practice to come into alignment.
Hmm.
That's why when we make commitments, so remember inner peace, right? So
Right,
I make a commitment to you, right? I say, yes, Donna, I'm going to do this show with you.
right.
I don't honor that commitment.
Mm.
I'm going to feel some kind of way. Now my peace has been robbed.
Right.
You see how being in integrity, when
Yes.
when we run the stoplight, right? We know the light's red. We done ran the light. We're looking around. Is the police? Did somebody? Did they see us? But if we sit there and wait till the light turns green, we obey the law.
Right,
Obey the law.
right.
We have inner peace, and that's what a principle is.
Mm.
A principle is a fundamental law. Prince means one, first law. It
Right,
is a fundamental law that guides our decision-making process, empowering us to live a lifestyle of integrity and morality.
right.
Principles.
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 And so, how did you feel like when you were in your stuff? Did you feel like I'm letting myself down? Not only am I letting the integrity of my family name, I'm letting all these people down. And when did Timothy come back and say, you know what? My integrity is worth more than all this junk that I've been doing?
I didn't use the word integrity. It was pride more than anything. My
Okay.
pride was hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I let my mom and my dad and my grandmother, man. My grandmother was that person who really never let me go. My mom trained me. I could do like anything. Yeah, clean, I can cook. My dad
Right,
taught me how to work, right? And
right,
so I was well rounded in being able to take care of myself, right?
right, right.
Um, but I had caused them so much embarrassment,
Mm-hmm.
for their mental psychic, they kind of had to let me go. They
Yes,
kind of had to let me go. But my grandmother kept holding on to me, and that was one of the things that it hurt me to see the hurt in her eyes.
yes.
I can remember Donna. She would get up in the morning, like I've been out all night. I've been in the street maybe 2 days, and
Mm,
I would come in the house, and she would have tears in her eyes, and she would say,
mm,
"Boy, you're killing yourself."
gee.
But this is what she would always end it with. But God's going to bring you out.
Mm,
I
mm.
thought that was crazy, right?
Right,
People kind of thought my nana they thought, because she was Pentecostal back in the day, right? So,
right,
the Baptist and the Methodist, that was a different level, right?
right.
And so, and I didn't understand what that meant. I
Mm-hmm.
just accepted it, right? But she kept speaking it,
Right.
right? Because faith comes by what?
Hearing.
Hearing. So
Yes.
she kept saying that, she kept sowing that seed into me. Um, I said that my mother told me that she had bought a $10,000 insurance policy to bear me with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I also had a daughter, right?
Mm.
And for some reason, Donna, I did not want my daughter to grow up and people say, your dad's a crackhead.
Jeez.
That was one of the most motivating things for me, was like, I did not want my daughter to have to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing that pushed me to get away from everybody. You know who did that? A lot of people in the Bible have done that. And I wasn't really aware of that. I didn't
Right,
start really
right,
studying the Bible until after I got really into recovery.
right,
The Bible is a manual for me, right?
right,
The instructions, that's I live by that. That's my
right,
go-to. So then I became much more familiar and understanding the stories of the
right,
Bible. But
right.
that was it. It was the pride. Wasn't so much
Mhm.
about integrity, but it was my pride. I was taught to be proud, be a man. You know what I
Right,
mean? And just,
right.
carry yourself in a way. My grandfather was a very prominent man.
Mhm.
He was very well known in the community. And so I couldn't just, live a lifestyle without people watching and saying, "Hey, that's George Henry Lee grandson right there." I was taught that condition. You just can't carry yourself any kind of way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so then your third one is forgiveness. So how hard was that for you to forgive yourself first?
That was the hardest. That was the hardest, because I had done a lot of things that I wasn't proud of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially, with the hurt that I caused my family, the embarrassment, and forgiving myself, I couldn't go back and change it, right?
Right.
And that was the key. A lot of times, that's what active addiction is, that vicious cycle. I do something today that I really, that's not me. But tomorrow when I wake up, now I've got to medicate the pain for what I did yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
today. And now once I get started, I'm going to do something else that I'm not proud of. And so it's a vicious cycle. It's a
Mm-hmm.
vicious cycle. And so there were many days when I woke up, and even today, I can still think about times that I wasn't there for my daughters. And I have to forget. I have to practice. I have to live these. I didn't just write these principles in a book. I didn't just put them up on these posters. I live these principles. They keep me um, as a productive member of society. They
Mm-hmm.
allow and empower me to be a responsible, productive member of society.
And so pretty much they're holding you accountable.
They hold me accountable, my consciousness, because I've practiced them now. Because you know what, we are creatures of habit.
Mm-hmm.
As human beings, we don't really dictate our future. We decide our habits, and our habits dictate our future.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so I practiced these principles over the years, and now they become habits. Like if I give my word to do something, if I don't do that, right,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't sit well in my spirit. I'm uneasy. I don't have inner peace.
And that piece is like for everything. And so the scripture that I chose for forgiveness was Colossians 3 and 13. Bear with each other, bear with each, and to forgive one another. If any one of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to do because you know why it's so hard to do
Why?
sometimes, Don? Because oftentimes we look at how it's impacting us. I had a coaching session with a young lady last week, and she was sharing a story with me, and I said the reason that you act the way you do, or you took the activity that you did, was not because of them, it's because of you. You didn't take a minute to see this person lashed out. It was about her kid. Her
Right,
kid lashed out at her. And so she responded back, who you talking to, right?
right, right,
Said, you know what? Did you take a minute to maybe try to understand what they were dealing with,
right,
what they were feeling, right?
right,
And so when we do that, it makes it easier for us to say to forgive.
right.
Because if I love you, right,
Mm-hmm.
if I really understand the definition of love and I love you, I'm not going to do anything to hurt you, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So if I do something to hurt you, that means there's something going on inside of me that caused me to take that action. So
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness works both sides of the fence,
Absolutely.
right? Jesus said, forgive them how many times? 70 times 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and why that's so important is because if I don't forgive you, then I'm walking around with a resentment.
Right. But
It-
people have a hard time forgiving. And that's the one thing that people have a hard time with is that forgiveness because sometimes we feel if we forgive that means we're saying, okay, I'm in agreement with it. But for me, forgiveness was hard for me. I'm just keeping it real. But
okay.
But when you know who you are in Christ, and then you're saying, I'm walking around with this unforgiveness in my heart, but that other person is going on about their day and they have no idea you're still stuck in unforgiveness. And then it starts to eat away at you like a cancer because you still can't get past that. And so I, had to have my father. I was like, you're gonna have to help me with this unforgiveness because when you see it, you see the person, you feel the reaction, and then there you go again, you're stuck.
Yeah, that word resentment is defined as anger directed inward.
Right.
So there's no way you can have inner peace with anger going on within
Yeah.
yourself.
No, you cannot. And then the fourth one you talked about already is hope. Were you hopeful? Were you hopeful in your coming out of your recovery that you can do this the 12th time? That this, were you saying, okay, it's 12 times, I got this?
You know, what gave me the greatest degree of hope was seeing that other people had practiced these principles
Mm-hmm.
and they had changed their life.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we don't understand the lifestyle that we live gives other people hope. I can remember people saying you're a living epistle, right? So
Mm-hmm.
people watch us, right?
Right, right.
Regardless, we're all connected in some way.
In some way.
This
Yes.
this podcast tonight, it didn't happen by accident, right?
Right, right.
Um, and there was a lot of things that happened to get us here to this point.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, was when I would go to meetings, at every meeting we always celebrate clean time,
Right,
right?
right.
So it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
9 months, 12 months, multiple years, right? And so people would get up and get their key tags, right?
Mm.
So I could see this was working. This was so that gave me hope. Like I
Right,
can see it.
right, right.
Yeah. And so then after I started getting some clean time under my belt, my hope, my level of hope
Right.
increased, right? And so that's how hope developed for me. And today I still have that same hope that if I continue to practice these principles,
Mm-hmm.
then I never have to go back. And that's it's done on a daily basis, right?
Right,
If I
right.
do what practice these principles in every area of my life today, I don't have to go back and live at a homeless shelter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be addicted, right? I don't have to embarrass my family. I don't have to be disconnected from my daughters, right? I
Right,
can be, somebody that my employer trusts me
right.
to do what I'm supposed to do, right? Because I have an integrity within myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, excellence. That's
Absolutely.
one of the things you'll find about excellence. People who operate with excellence, two things they will possess: integrity and ethics.
Yeah,
Ethics.
absolutely.
And, Donna, I just think that, to be honest, we can make some improvements in the message that we send the next generation. Your show is one of them, right? So you bring people on to talk about real life stories and real
Right,
solutions, right?
right, right.
We have a responsibility. We were given freedom. There was a huge sacrifice paid for us not to be in
Mm,
chains,
mm,
right?
mm.
And we can't go back and change that. Well, we have a responsibility to help guide the next generation.
Absolutely. And they need it. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, and and I talk to people all the time, I always say, where do we go wrong? And I can only speak for our African American race, and it's no disrespect to other races, but I'm African American. And I say, where do we go wrong? Because you know, when we were growing up, it was a village. I couldn't be over here down the street doing wrong, and your mom would tell me, if you don't go get your tail home, I'm gonna call your parents. And it was a chain effect. So we didn't have time to get in trouble because somebody was always watching us.
Yeah.
Now we just let the kids run and do whatever, say whatever, dress however, and nobody is teaching them these 12
Yeah.
principles.
That's right. And so, we've moved away from the basics,
Yeah,
right? These 12 principles are basic, fundamental. We didn't necessarily call them what we call them now, but
right,
we were taught them,
right,
right? If
absolutely,
you
absolutely,
if you tell a man you're gonna do something and shake his hand,
absolutely.
the
Your
only
word
way
is
you didn't
bond.
do that is, it had to be something catastrophic for you not to do that,
Right,
right?
right,
Um, I can remember my grandfather saying, you don't have to be afraid. You can do it, right? You
yeah,
can do whatever you want to do. The courage, right?
right, right,
And you're right. and that is my goal and my passion. You know, I have developed these notebooks that we're getting out into the school system. One of the things that I love about this vision that God has given me,
Right.
I want to go there for a little bit.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, my mission is, or my statement is, free yourself from yourself, discover your purpose,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's why, Donna. Until we discover our purpose,
Mm.
we can't live
Mm.
the successful life that we want to. We can live, we can maintain a
Mm-hmm.
trumpet hanging on a wall, right?
Right.
It looks nice, right? But it's a failure. You know why?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it was created to blow notes, right?
Exactly. And you just letting it sit. And that's one thing that I always tell people, at the end of my life, we're all born with a purpose. And some of us know, and sometimes it takes longer, but I always tell them, if you go to the Father and say, Lord, what is my purpose? I don't know. He'll tell you. But you got to be still enough to listen and hear him when he tell you your purpose, because people are walking around and they have no clue to what they
That's one of
do.
the greatest. That's the greatest issue in our society today, in our younger generation, and even in our generation. We don't know why we're here,
No.
right? And so, if we don't know what our purpose is, we can get dragged off into an alley or an addiction or something that's not going to serve us well. And
Absolutely.
here's a key. Here's also a key to discovering our purpose. It's called a gift. Everything God created came to this planet with a gift trapped inside of it. A
Right.
bird comes in with a gift of flight. Nobody puts flight in a bird.
No.
A
No.
fish comes in with a gift of swim. Nobody puts swim in a fish. A mango seed comes here with a gift of a tree trapped inside of it, right?
Right.
But you know what? You can sit that mango seed on your counter and it'll sit there for 30 years and the tree will never come out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's in the wrong environment.
Right.
It's
Right.
in the wrong environment. So when we take that seed and drop it in some soil, give it some moisture and sunlight, boom, we'll see the gift come out. So environments matter, right?
Environment.
But
Yes.
here's why this purpose thing is, there's no substitute for purpose, Donna.
No.
Look, so when we discover our purpose, that purpose will create a vision,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Our purpose is the reason for our creation. That vision is when we see it, right?
Right. Right.
So that vision, when we see that vision, we get excited, right? And that excitement, it causes us to have a conviction,
Right.
and that conviction ignites a passion.
Mm.
People get excited about Michael Jordan. You look at all the great Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, all
Mm-hmm.
of the champions. They do what they do with passion
Right.
because they've discovered their purpose.
Absolutely.
They have seen the vision.
Mm-hmm.
It's ignited a passion. Other people see that passion. That's called influence, and that influence is really what we call leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's real leadership.
Yeah.
Like, you're a leader. Everybody is a leader.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, in our area of functioning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I mean,
But you got to discover that gift first.
but how do we get them to do that? Like, I mean,
Okay, so that's a great question. Okay, so when kids are coming up, they are exposed to a lot of things. And this is where kind of we've maybe missed the mark at. You know,
mhm,
we coach and we've told people, our younger generation, go to school, get a degree,
mhm,
get a job.
right.
We never said, let's study this kid and see what gift God put in him, right?
Yes.
Tiger Woods' daddy said, every time I take Tiger outside, he's always hitting a ball with a stick.
Mhm, mhm,
Every time I turn on golf, he's watching TV. Let me
right.
take him to the golf course,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
So so his dad helped him train the gift. See, the process is to discover the gift,
Right.
train the gift, and then serve it to the world, right? And that becomes our purpose. So how can we do that? Is we ask ourselves, what are we really good at?
Right.
We
Right.
study. We got to study ourselves.
Mhm,
I discovered my gift at 45 years old. I had 5 years clean. right? I had never been clean and sober that long. And I'm living in $250,000 house. I've gone from the overflow in the homeless shelter
Mhm.
on the floor to $250,000 home in 5 years,
Jesus.
right?
Right.
And I said, well, what am I going to do now? And I had this revelation. You always like sharing information. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna be a speaker.
Right.
Right. And I said, you know, I've always been a Michael Jordan fan. So when Michael Jordan came in the league, he was jump man jump. I said, I'm gonna be talk man talk, right? And
Because I
so
tell you, I loved your energy when I saw you at the premiere. And I was just like, yes. I was like, it's so amazing. But you know, Tim, that's what I always say too. We have to get our children away from these electronic devices and find out what they, like you said, what they're good at. And I always tell people, you may have authors in your home, doctors, writers, but if we're allowing all of these electronics, and nothing is wrong with that, but if we're letting them dictate to them what their purpose is supposed to be, then how are we pushing their purpose? And you know, it's like I have a 16-year-old. I take her iPad for a whole week sometimes. She gets mad, but you know what she does? She go in there and she draws. She go in there and she takes her journal and she writes, because her mind needs a break from all this stuff so she can tap back in to who she is.
woo, that's good. And that is the key. See, when we discover our purpose, it'll give us a sense of value, right?
Yes.
It's our source of significance.
Right.
So now we know why we're here. It's like if you want to get a read a science book and you go to Barnes and Noble, you're not going to go in the nonfiction or different sections. You're going to go
Right.
straight to the science section, right?
Right.
Um, and so when we discover our purpose, we know what roads not to take. But
Absolutely.
if we don't know our purpose, we can take any road, and we know that sometimes those roads. Yeah, Tamika said her gifts, right?
Yes. Hey, Tamika, thanks for tuning in. But yeah, we have
I
to
want, I want, I want to give you a definition. I want to give you a definition of gift,
go ahead.
right?
Go ahead.
It is the inherent capacity to fulfill a function that meets a need in creation.
Mm.
Every word is important. I
Every,
came here with that gift. When I received that revelation at 45 that I was going to be a motivational speaker,
mm-hmm.
I had an epiphany and I was taken back right at that moment. I was taken back and I remember being in first and second and third grade, always getting in trouble, Miss Donna. I
Wow.
was always getting in trouble. I was being sent to the chalkboard to put my nose in a circle and my hands behind my back.
You,
Guess,
you went way back because I remember those days. Yeah.
guess why? Guess why I stayed in trouble?
Because you was bored.
No, because I was talking in class. I had the gift when I got here. I had the gift, like the bird, like the fish, like the.
Right.
I had
Right.
the,
Right.
so when we helped them, and our gift was given to us. My gift was given to me for you.
Yeah.
Your gift is for me. It is the inherent. That means we're born with it.
Right.
Capacity to fulfill a function that meets a need in creation.
Right.
So we all came here for a purpose. God created nothing for entertainment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then, you know, we can go ahead, since we're gonna add that in there, you might as well say, hey, we have to have the willingness to obey and do it.
Yeah, you know what? I had to trust some people to show me how to love myself. And I had to be willing, right?
Right.
Willingness and courage. I had to have the courage to be willing to trust these principles would save my life,
Yeah.
right? That's why when we talk about faith, the faith is in the principles, right?
Mhm.
Evidence based. Like I know, because there was another revelation that I had at that 12th rehab center when I picked up the Bible and I got down to, I said, I'm gonna read this whole Bible. After what had just happened, I was blown away. I was like, what? And you know, I don't try to promote nothing spooky, but it happened that way for me.
Right,
You
right.
know, that's
And
my
that's your
story.
truth. That's your truth.
And so I got down to Genesis 1:11 and it says, it's recorded, and God said, let every seed produce after its own kind. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? See, at this point, at 40 years old, it doesn't matter what mama, grandmama, none of them said.
Absolutely.
I need facts,
Mm-hmm.
right? If
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to change, I need facts because I have been making decisions that landed me in some bad situations. So
Absolutely.
now I need facts so I can make good decisions because I was just told I didn't know how to live, right? So I'm going to learn how to live based on facts. And I said, you know, on that farm, every time we put corn seed in the ground for 18 years, we
Mm-hmm.
got corn.
Right.
Every time we put watermelon seeds in a field, it produced watermelons every time. And the revelation was words and deeds are just like seed.
Mm.
They produce after their own kind. And
Right.
at that point, Donna, I had a new operating system.
Wow. Mm.
I knew like I couldn't just say anything. I couldn't treat people any kind of way
Right.
and know that it was not going to impact me.
Mm. Mm.
I can't say that I can't talk negative to people or hate people and expect people not to hate me.
Right. Right.
Words and deeds are just like seed. That's
Mm.
why I love I might not like certain people, but I love people. Man, I
Right.
do.
Absolutely.
I'll go out of my way to let people know that I love them. Right?
Right.
Because and look, you remember I was just listening to it the other night, Helen Beller. I had a praying grandmother.
Yes. Yes.
She says in that song, we all want to be loved.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
And so I mean, you just leading me right on into these next principles, and that comes with acceptance. We have to accept what we can't change, but if we accept what we can't change and learn how to change them to work for us,
Absolutely.
and how was your acceptance? Like, you done been in this addiction, so now you had to accept it because number one, you said you had to be honest with yourself. And so for me, that honesty and acceptance can be up there at the first one, because once you say, hey, I'm addicted, and now you're saying I'm accepting that I'm addicted. So now, how is the acceptance for you?
So the acceptance back then was, you know what? I had to accept the fact there's people that can drink. There's people that can smoke
Mm-hmm.
and they still function.
Mm.
I had to accept the fact that I cannot. It
Right.
was kind of like a diabetic. A diabetic person has to accept the fact that there's certain foods that they can't eat, right?
Absolutely.
So I had to accept that. Now, with years of clean time under my belt, what I have to accept that there are situations and circumstances that I have no control over.
Right.
How a person operates, whether it's not it's negative. If a
Mm-hmm.
person operates from a negative standpoint, what I have to accept and my responsibility is that I'm responsible for me,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
not them. I'm responsible for how I live. And
Mm.
so I accept my responsibility, that I've discovered my gift, right? I accept that responsibility that, you know, I can't go and be a race car driver. I can't go and be a professional athlete. My everything is so amazing down there. Everything, when I look back, how things have kind of aligned to help me
Mhm.
prepare to be where I'm at right now.
Right.
I'm going out to schools and school districts. I did a training in a school district. We've got kids killing one another,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And our, we create policies and law on Capitol Hill, and that's good. And
Mm-hmm.
we have the church and we practice our faith. But these principles, right?
Mm-hmm.
These principles are the common denominator. You
Mm-hmm.
can be a Republican or a Democrat and practice these principles. You can be a Baptist or atheist or a Methodist, or you can be a male or a female and
Right.
practice these principles. These are the common ground. And if, once we get these principles out in the public eye, because faith comes by what? Seeing, hearing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What we'll find is, our younger generation, they'll start holding each other accountable because
Absolutely.
the harvest that we see is based on the seed that was sown into them.
Mm-hmm.
We all land here knowing nothing. We learn everything after we get here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we see them acting outside of integrity or morality, we got to look at, like you said earlier, what part did I play in that?
Right, right.
Did I, and I was just talking with someone the other day, and I was talking about, like Mike Brown, what happened to him out in St. Louis. And, I kind of knew the family. I knew of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was a tragedy that the police shot him and killed him, right? That was a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
But who was it that allowed him to think that he could go in them people's store
Right,
and take their merchandise without paying for it,
right, right.
right? And then to come out and not help, the other families say, you know what? Because there was some things, some activities that Mike Brown was into that his parents knew about that were outside of
Absolutely.
how we should be living. Instead of saying, you know what, there's some things we could have done differently for our son. And had we done that, then he may still be alive today. And I want to encourage you to take a look at how your son or daughter is living and maybe, try to help them understand how to live a different lifestyle so that they don't have to, suffer like our son did.
Right,
That's the message. That's what we got to do. We
right,
got to stop blaming other people for what we should be responsible for.
right. And so when you go into these schools and you talk to educators and students, how do the students come after you're done? How do they receive these 12 principles?
You know, they don't really understand them. Well, I can't say they don't really understand them. What students have connected with is really, my story and my passion.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke at a school, an elementary school, Donna, and I asked the audience, I said, does anybody know or have anybody in their family that's been dealing with substance abuse or addiction?
Mm-hmm.
And this young girl stood up, maybe 12, 13 years old.
Mm.
And she said, my mom was using meth and she went into treatment and she came home and she was doing real good. But
Mm.
now she's gone again and we don't know where she's at. And you could have heard a pin drop.
Mm.
How is that young person supposed to deal with that?
Mm. Mm.
We got to help them deal with that. Because if we don't help her, guess where she's going? On the same path. You saw Whitney and Bobby Christina.
Right.
What a tragedy. What
Yeah.
a tragedy.
Right. And 12.
Yeah,
And
at
now
12.
now this is her truth. But like you said, somebody has to step in and let her know that there's another way.
And that's that's why, I have accepted, we're talking about acceptance. What has happened in my past, it cost me a lot.
Mm.
I've experienced a lot of pain and loss, right? Not being there for my daughters, jobs and houses and cars and, careers. But now I understand when I go to a school or I'm coaching an individual who's dealing with substance abuse or divorce, because all of those are symptoms. They're not the problem. The problem is self-government. That's what the solution is going to be. The answer to our problems is self-government. Because a person who governs themselves doesn't need policing.
Right. Right.
A person who governs themselves won't get trapped into activities that doesn't serve them well,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Because we get honest with ourselves. We say, you know, vaping now is a big thing in the school system.
Oh,
Vaping
absolutely. Middle school, it is running
is
rapid.
the thing.
Yeah.
But see, we focus on the vaping. The vaping is not the problem.
Right.
It's a symptom.
Mm.
It's a symptom. When we get pain in our body, the pain is not the problem.
Mm.
The pain is a sign that there is a
It's a
problem.
problem. Absolutely.
Vaping is a sign that there is a problem. And the problem is the majority of them, they don't know why they're here. They
Right.
don't know who they are.
Right.
We got to help them.
And they're trying to fit in and figure it out.
They're trying to fit, and we got to help guide them. And the way we do that is with these principles. Like if I had my kid was vaping, what's the approach? How do you approach that kid?
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's not a, it's not about it's not about the vaping. Let's go underneath that.
Right. Absolutely.
Let's Why do you feel the need to vape? Let's get
Mm-hmm.
honest here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then we can get into some honesty. Do you think vaping is best for your body? The answer is going to be no. So we got to, you know, and we
Absolutely.
and we and we start planting those seeds.
And one thing I found out, because I'm in education too, it's about our approach, especially as an adult. It's about our approach. Yeah, they know they shouldn't be vaping. They already know that, number one.
Right.
But they don't need us to go and be like, look, you shouldn't be doing A, B, and C. We can't approach them like that and think that we're gonna win them over or draw them to a different mindset or change their mindset. But if we are going to them and say, no, I don't approve of you vaping, but let's figure out why did you start?
What's it? What?
Like,
Oh,
why
oh,
why
yeah.
did you start? Is it because you want to fit in, or what, did you feel pressure? You got to ask all these questions with a loving heart, so then you can understand, and then they will tell you the real deal. But if you attack them, they're not going to tell you anything.
That's right. And that's how these trainings came about. We had two young kids, the OD, and 13, 14 years old in
Wow.
our small community, right? And I was speaking with the educator and I said, well, if you see a kid, you're walking down the hall and you smell weed on a kid, or you see a kid nodding in class, what is your approach? What do you do? What's your process? And she said, we really don't have one. And I
Mm,
said, oh man, that's unfortunate. As leaders, we shouldn't stare at problems. We should seek solutions.
absolutely.
We make improvements, not excuses, right?
Right,
And
right,
so,
absolutely.
and so my approach is, let's not talk about the vaping. Let's talk about who you are. Because
Mhm.
once we help them discover their value, who they are, then
Yes.
they won't. It's kind of like this. If I give you a ring out of a Cracker Jack box and I give you a 10-carat ring out of a jewelry store, do you think you're going to handle that 10-carat ring a little bit different?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we help them see the 10-carat. You are 10-carat. You
Yes.
are more valuable than this
Yes.
activity
Yes.
that you're engaging in.
Yes.
So now once they discover their value, then they won't want to destroy themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're losing our kids. We are losing them at an
But
alarming.
we don't have to.
I know
But
we
you know
don't.
what? You know what? It's people like you who look, let me tell you something. I know the type of work and the energy and the effort it takes for you to do this show. You probably don't get a lot of financial monetary gain from it,
No.
but you do it to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what look, and so we're joining, right? Unity. The power is in the unity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we connect our gifts, just like we're
Right.
doing tonight, and
Right.
we can help change. These 12 principles, I promise you,
Yeah.
law is the foundation of creation. These principles are laws. Everything functions by law, and laws have the power to change a whole nation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You look at the difference in the laws, like from when you and I were growing up to the different laws and
Mm-hmm.
how our society has changed. So we get these 12 principles. Everybody is promoting. I'm seeing these 12 principles on billboards. I
Wow.
have these posters. The school district bought 52 of these posters to put up around the schools. So
Wow.
now these kids are walking around seeing these posters, and
Absolutely.
they'll start holding each other accountable.
And
Because
that's
guess
what
what?
we want. And that's really what we want. We want them to start holding their peers accountable, because
Yes,
I want my peers to hold me accountable, because when I feel like I want to act crazy and do something crazy, I need people in my life that are gonna be like, no, 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 like what's going on with you? Because when we hold people accountable, if me and you are friends and I say I care about you, love you, and when I notice that something ain't right about Tim, he ain't been right in about 2 or 3 days, the first day I noticed something, I should be saying, hey, everything okay? Because you don't seem like yourself today. Like, what's going on? But sometimes we'll wait until it comes, and then what's our response? I knew something was wrong with them.
Yeah, yeah. And see, and you know what? It's the most natural thing on planet Earth. Uh, do you know a 15-year-old will listen to a 15-year-old versus a 30-year-old?
Mhm. You can't-
It's amazing. Like,
right,
listen to somebody, that's where you at, right? But
right,
that's it. We do that, right?
right.
And so that's part of the model is we get these posters up around the schools. They see them
Mhm.
in yard signs, right? I got some yard signs today. So I'm gonna start putting these yard signs up in communities because this poster right here, let me explain this to you. So you
Yeah.
see, this is a complete program. To free yourself from yourself
Mm-hmm.
is the what. That is the what. There's three parts to a goal: the what, the why, and the how.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So to free yourself from yourself is the what. The why is to discover your purpose. And
Right.
the how are these 12 principles. It's a complete process.
Well, we're gonna have to talk about how people can get you here. Then so the A one is humility.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Humbling ourselves, humility, a lot of um, chaos and confusion and fights come from the spirit of humble. You know,
Mm-hmm.
real power, if you look at the stories of Jesus, he was humble. He didn't get
Mm-hmm.
upset, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one time, right? But power is in humility.
Yeah.
You know, if if I know that I am in the wrong, right, I have to accept that,
Right.
right? If I do so, because I'm not perfect, Donna.
Absolutely. None of
I
us.
don't want nobody listening to this to think that Tim Stewart has arrived
Oh
because I
no, none
still
of us
fall short.
have. Yeah, yeah, we do. I fall short. Yeah, because
But
sometimes
I,
my attitude stinks, or sometimes I may say something, twist it out the mouth, and I'd be like, "Ooh,
yeah.
you said
But
that."
see, humility says that I promptly make amends.
Yeah,
I can say,
absolutely.
Donna, I apologize. So
Yes.
now, instead of me, knowing that I fell short,
Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
and not, and not wanting to act with humility, now I'm going to walk around now like there's a wedge between us because I've done you wrong. And I know
Absolutely.
that, and I know that you know that. But guess
Absolutely.
what? When I say, Donna, you know what? I apologize. I humble myself. Now,
Mm-hmm.
guess what that allows me to have,
In a
Donna?
piece, in a piece.
That's right. That's right. Hello.
It allowed, cause, and this is my thing. I am at a season in my life. My peace is everything. It is
Absolutely.
everything. I mean, family, friends, whatever.
We
It,
can't be productive without it.
yeah, it's everything. That inner peace is everything. But you know what? That's when we have the faith to say, mm, I'm gonna protect myself at all costs. And
That's
so,
right.
with that being said, how did your faith, because that's one of the 12 principles, how did your faith, Tim, kick in? And at what point
Well,
did it kick in?
okay. When I made that admission, I got honest and said, you know what? I don't know how to live.
Right.
Right. My faith kicked in when I said, you know what? I'm going to unlearn some things and relearn how to live. And I said, I'm going to base that on principles, on these
Right.
principles.
Right.
So I made a decision, right? I made the decision to practice these principles. I said, now, if I don't get a different result, then I can always quit anytime I want. That's what I was told. Hey, you can quit anytime you want. You can always get your misery refunded to you,
Right. 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 Absolutely.
right? And so that's when my faith kicked in. And, I kind of walked away from the blind faith type of faith, right? I
Mhm.
believe that, and from studying scripture, right, I have a different understanding probably than many. I mean, I went down and I've gone back to Greek and Hebrew and
Right. Right.
understanding of what words mean,
Right,
and
right.
this faith, in Joshua 1:8. Are you familiar with Joshua 1:8?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Moses had led the Israelites out of Egypt, right? And they got over into the wilderness, and Moses did some things God told him not to do. And he said, Joshua, I want you to take my people into the promised land. And Joshua was like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't know how I'm going to do that. And
Right.
Joshua 1:8, God said, Joshua, if you will meditate on this book of the law
Mm-hmm.
day and night, and observe to do according to all that's written therein, then you will make your way prosperous and you will have good success.
Wow.
That let me know the responsibility was on me. That word meditate comes from the Hebrew word
You said
Hagah,
Joshua 1 and 8?
1:8.
Okay.
That word meditate comes from the Hebrew word Hagah, Hagaw, and it means to mutter, to say the same thing over and over. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Right.
Strengthens me. Whatsoever my hands touch shall prosper. I
Yes.
am the head and not the tail. I am
Right.
above and not beneath.
Right.
Right? And I say that because when I say it out of my mouth, how does faith come, Donna? You said it already.
By
How does faith
hearing.
come?
By
By
hearing.
hearing. So
Right.
when I say it out of my mouth, who's hearing it?
You and
Me.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. So then I build my faith. Honesty, hope, faith, courage, integrity, willingness, humility, discipline, forgiveness, acceptance, awareness, and gratitude. And I practice these and I say that. And I practice these principles and I read up on them and I study them. And that's where my faith kicks in.
Wow. And then you have courage.
Yes, the courage to continue. Because some days I don't feel like practicing, some of these principles with some people, right? Right? But I have to develop the courage, right,
Yeah, yeah.
to keep going.
Yeah, and so and that the scripture that I have for this one was Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lean to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will
And he
direct
was direct.
your path.
That's
And so that's the one I chose for that one.
yeah, yeah, and having the courage, like to, you know, every time that I speak, it's my gift. I tell people, you can wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, stand me in front of 3,000 people, give me a microphone, I get down like James Brown, do my thing, right? That will fright, that will shock some people. It will shock some people, right? But if you put a computer in front of me and ask me to fix it, it's not going to work. I can tell you that right now. You might as well go buy a new one because that's not my gift, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we have to have the courage, right, to maintain, what our purpose is, right? And
And
then and on those days when we don't feel like doing what we need to do, we have to be responsible and have the courage and say, you know what, I can make it, even though it doesn't
God,
feel
God,
good.
yes,
It
that is
doesn't
so
feel,
true. I
yeah.
confirmation for me right now because I was just talking to my girlfriend before I went on, and she was like, "Well," she was like, "I'll call you back," and I was like, "Well, I'm, getting ready to do my live," and and I tell like this right here, it's a whole, a whole preparation because it's not that I
It's a lot
don't
of work. It's a lot
it's
of
not
work.
that I don't love doing it, but every time I come on here, it takes courage because it's like, I have to make sure, I got my light, got my songs, and it's just like a whole spiel, And
Yeah,
and I said, but the thing about it is, once I get on, I'm just like you. I'm here, like I'm ready. But it
that's
is
right.
a whole
It's a
process.
lot of preparation, and I know it's a lot of work, right?
Yeah,
And the gratitude. Let me tell you something. Let me let you know this now. I appreciate you.
thank you.
You are providing a platform for a lot of people to help a lot of people. You have no idea the impact that your show, all of that commitment and preparation, and that
Yes.
you have no idea. You know, one of my relatives had been an educator all his life, right? He
Mhm.
went to school to become a teacher. He
Mhm.
taught. He became a principal. I mean, he's had all of those roles, right?
Right.
And so I went to him and I said, Uncle Bro, I said, I want to do this training to the school and I took my poster and I said, you know, I explained a little bit about my training and what I wanted to do. And I said, do you think, do you think it's worth it?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what he said to me, Donna? He said, if it saves one,
One. Mm-hmm.
if your show changes one person's
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
No amount of money can equate to what that does for us on the
And
inside.
right. And you know, and so I had interviewed this guy. And so like this Saturday, I'm gonna be getting a humanitarian award. And I was blown away. I was like, what? And it's, you know, and it's Sadie Roberts Joseph, and she's out of New Orleans. This award, she was a humanitarian. And when I was told, and I was just sitting in my office and I just started crying. I was like, Lord, I didn't realize that's what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And so
Changing lives.
for me, it's a lot of work, but I love people. I have met some amazing people, you know, and so that's what keeps me going. And like you
Now,
said, you sometimes you second guess yourself because you know that this is what you're supposed to be doing, but then you also know, like, am I really making a difference?
you want me to share something with you? You know, because I like to go there, right?
Right,
So in Genesis 2:15, I think it was, one of the first things that God gave Adam was he told him to work,
right.
right? Well, that word work is not like what we think of working for money. That
Mm-hmm.
word work means to become. It comes from the Hebrew word aragon, and it means to become. He said, Adam, become what I put inside of you, right?
Mm.
So when we discover our gift, right, what you're doing, and you are working, right? You're discovering, you're serving your gift to the world. When a bird is flying, that's what God calls work. When a fish is swimming, that's work.
Right,
So you are helping people. That is your work.
right.
There's nothing more gratifying than that. Nothing. You know, they say when a bird is at top flight, when he's at work, he gains energy.
Wow, wow.
You can wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll do this right now, just like this, ready.
And so then your 10th one is awareness. Your awareness.
Yeah, awareness is knowledge. Knowledge and awareness, they go hand in hand, right?
Right.
Um, my people are destroyed for a lack of what?
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
So we've got to do some. We've got to get some information. See, there's there's knowledge, there's understanding, and then there's wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge is information. Understanding is comprehension, and all that get understanding.
Right.
And wisdom is the application of the knowledge,
Right.
right?
Right.
Can't apply something we don't understand.
Absolutely.
So awareness, we can't stare at these problems and stare them like we can't look at these kids and say, you know, and I hear people say, you know what, this world is going to end soon. It's just doom. Well, I don't think like that. That's
No.
not how a leader thinks. A
No.
leader thinks, you know, I know I use this analogy, um, really, and it goes back to faith, right? Faith, it comes from the word pistis, and it means firmly convinced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it means that it doesn't matter, the surroundings or conditions doesn't matter.
Right.
What does the word say? That's faith, right?
Right. Right.
And so this awareness is us looking at assessing our society, and we
Mm-hmm.
start making steps of progress. We don't stare at the problems. We seek solutions, right?
Absolutely.
You know, our connection is we have no idea how many people we can impact by joining our talents together. This
Absolutely.
show, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure we're going to have more conversations. I really want to have more
Yes.
conversations and see how we can collaborate. The
Absolutely.
life, look, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Life doesn't owe me anything. It
No.
owes me nothing. Right? I've had some of my best days, my worst days.
Yeah.
My whole purpose, my life now is about the next generation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I have the next generation of grandkids coming up.
That's right. That's right. And if we don't
Yep.
do something
Yep.
to prepare,
Yeah. You know, I have 16-year-old. My youngest one is 8. So, you know, like we have to do something to make sure we're leaving a legacy that they can follow these principles. You know, we don't expect them to be perfect, but when we instill all these things in them, you know, because even like me reading these, I was like, you know, I was, wow, I did my thing, but I always heard my mother's voice. You know, I go straight to the line and I'd be like,
You know,
because I was scared of the law, you know,
uh-huh.
you
Right.
know, and then I was scared of the law, which was, you know, what I was going to get at home,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
see, yeah, law gets a bad rap, but law really protects us.
Yeah,
It serves us,
yeah.
right? And it guides us.
And that's
Law,
what it did for me because I knew I didn't want to go over there. You see what I'm saying? And also,
yeah.
you know, I did whatever I wanted to do, but I also knew when it came to me running in with the law, then I was like, Donna, you better go on back over across this way and just chill because I knew that if I did, it could be bad for me.
Yeah, you know, I grew up with 45, 50-year-old men. At 10 years old, I was hanging out with 45, 50-year-old men. And they taught me how to be a man. But they also introduced me to some stuff I probably didn't need to know at that age, right?
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
but I have a young lady that I'm coaching, right? And she was talking about her kid is 19 years old, right? And she says, I'm ready for her to get out. I'm ready for her to be on her own. And here was my question. Have you prepared her for that?
Yes, yes. Have you prepared her for
And you know what she said? She got honest and she said, I haven't.
that?
I said, so you got to start preparing her. You
Ab-
can't expect her to go out here and make it and be successful, and you haven't prepared her for that.
That's like throwing her in the lion's den.
Absolutely. And then, you know, and I hear parents say, well, I did what I was supposed to do. No, no, because either you allow them to be in an environment, either you put them in an environment, or you allow them to be in an environment and seeds were sown, and now the harvest that you see you don't like.
Right, right,
It's your fault. It's your fault.
right.
And I've seen it so many times now. You know, it's kind of like a tree, right?
Mhm.
When they set a tree out in the yard, right? Do you know what they do to that little? They call it a young sapling, a young tree. Do you know what they do to that tree, Donna?
Mm-mm. They pick it
They
apart.
tie string, they tie strings on it, right, to make sure the tree doesn't get blown over by the wind and
Wow,
grow crooked, right? That's what
wow.
we got to do. We got to tie strings on them, right, so they grow up straight. So when the ill wind comes, it won't blow them over, right?
That's
They
great.
won't get sideways, right? They can keep growing straight. And then once their foundation is strong,
Right.
then the wind can blow, right?
But they're gonna stand still.
But
They can
they
stand.
can be unmovable,
Yeah,
unshakable, right?
yes. That is powerful. And kids need to know that they are powerful in their own right.
Absolutely. Everything that we need to be successful, God put it inside of us.
Yes,
Everything
yes.
to fulfill our purpose. You can't teach a Michael Jordan how to play basketball the way he does. He developed his skill, but
But it's in them.
yeah, that athleticism was inside of him. I can't jump like Mike, but I can talk like Mike. See, everybody has a gift, and we
Everybody.
can really be like Mike in our area of functioning.
Right, right. And then that goes to number 11, discipline.
Yeah, you're not going to get too far without discipline. And that's called discipleship, right? That word
Right.
discipline comes from the word disciple, right? And the disciples, that's what that means is the following of a master teaching,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Discipleship is the commitment to follow a master teaching. And these 12 principles, discipline is we have to practice them. When we don't, even when we don't feel like it, even when it don't seem right, even when other people are doing different stuff and they seem like they're getting ahead,
Right.
we have to practice. And see, discipline creates again habits.
Right. And you know what scripture do you think I chose for this one?
I don't know which one. Tell me.
Proverbs 22 and 6.
Read it. I'm not familiar with the number.
Train up a child in the way
Oh,
they
the
should,
way they should go.
and when
Hmm.
he old, he would not turn from
Not
it.
depart. That's right. Because now it's solid. It's
Yes,
steadfast.
yes,
Those habits,
yes.
right? So, the young lady that I was working with, I said, you've got to create a plan, put some things on some paper. That's why I created this journal. So
Right.
every day they pick this journal up. They see these principles. Okay, they're writing in this journal, right? Every day they're getting exposed to these principles.
Right.
Every day, and eventually, it's kind of like how if you hold a cup of coffee under a spigot of water that's running, eventually what's going to happen to the coffee?
It's gonna spill out.
It's going to run out. The water is going to run the coffee out.
Absolutely.
That's what that's what these principles do. It,
Mm.
it runs, now not every kid is into, drugs or gambling or sex,
Right.
right? But these principles are still valid because it doesn't mean that they're not subject to,
Mm-hmm.
these activities. I'll give you an example. I remember a few years ago, a guy came home and found his daughter, 16-year-old daughter, in the bathroom having sex with her boyfriend, right? And so it made news because he beat them both, and the little dude like to die, right? And see, here's what I said about that. What he should have done was gave them the belt and let them beat him because he didn't teach his daughter her value.
Right.
If
Right.
he had taught her her value, she wouldn't have been in the bathroom. So we don't want to take responsibility
Mm.
for the part we played.
Right. Right.
So we got to be disciplined enough, to say, hey, you know what? I know she won't like this or he won't like this, but I've got to be consistent with what I'm asking them to do because I know it's going to benefit them in the long run.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have to, as parents, we have to take accountability because when God gives us these children, He is holding us accountable. He
Absolutely.
gave me my children so they can be my best homie. Now I
Right.
can be my child's friend. I can love you, nurture you, but my job when he made me when he decided that I was qualified, if you will, to be a parent, then that's what he wants me to do. Train up my child in the way that they should go.
That
Will
is
they
correct.
stray? Absolutely. Will they make mistakes? Absolutely. But I can't be out here partying, and thinking that my sons or my daughter is my homegirl or my homeboy. These are my children. I have an investment in you. I am going to get this investment out of you. However, when you choose to leave my house, then you are free to do whatever. But remember, everything you do has a consequence, whether it's good or whether it's bad.
But you know what? And I hate to say this, but it's true. We're all programmed.
Yeah,
And the programming starts from a baby, right? A
absolutely.
lot of times what happens is people it's like they try to change them after they're 13, 14 years old. They've been engaging in all this activity that's not I'll use dating as an example. When I was growing up, and I'm sure they still do it, 12, 13 years old, little Johnny, little Sally got a little boyfriend, little girlfriend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the parents, they think it's cute, right? But they're allowing these teenagers, young teenagers, to engage in something they have no idea what they're doing. And a
Absolutely.
lot of times, individuals get scarred. They get scarred from those early relationships and they take them into adulthood
Mm.
and they never have successful relationships. Why? Because their parents allowed them to engage in something they had no idea how to do.
Yeah, yeah. When we was 13, we were still playing with Barbie doll heads.
Well, I mean, I had a little girlfriend at 12 years old, and I can tell you that because I got scarred. At
Right.
16 years old, I fell in love, and I thought, hey, I'm a man, right? I grew up around men. I'm a man, and
Right.
whatever I got to do. But look, she wasn't my wife. Yeah, you know, but
Right.
but because that's how I was programmed, right?
Right.
That's how I was programmed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, with our kids, when we can start instilling these principles in kids and they hold each other accountable and they practice these principles, we can have the confidence. We can be pretty confident that, you know, they're not going to stray too far. Like you said, they're not going to
Right.
go too far.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Nobody's going to come up to them and offer them a pill or something to smoke, right? Because they're going to get honest and say, you know what? That's not healthy for me.
Right.
That's not a part of my purpose. And
Right.
no thank you.
Right. Absolutely. And then the 12th one is gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude is what we're doing right now, Donna. Is, you know, there's no amount of money that can, you know, equate to what I feel now when I get a chance to go in front of, you know, kids. I've even, you know, I speak on the collegiate level as well, and you know, I'm grateful first of all that I have been able to break free from active addiction. Right
Yes, me
now,
too. Thank God.
yeah, and now the gratitude is like giving back, right? I understand the responsibility that, you know, what I have been given, it's my responsibility to give back.
Right.
Now I'm gonna show you again how this faith thing works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I share my story of overcoming active addiction to other people, and when I share it and I share it and I share it, who's hearing it?
Everybody.
And who, most importantly, who else?
You are here.
Me.
You're
I'm
here.
hearing it.
Yes.
That's right. That's why God told Joshua, meditate, say it out loud over and over again, day and night, right? Because it builds my faith.
Yeah.
So that gratitude, right? And it's just an ongoing cycle. Like the negative cycle was
Mm-hmm.
with using and active
Mm-hmm.
addiction,
Mm-hmm.
it works the same way on the positive side.
Right.
Right. I'm very grateful for you. I'm very grateful for this show. You know, I mean, I've been thinking about this show and, you know, excited about doing it. I just launched my new site today. You know what? Today is, I don't know if you know this, but today is the 8th, right? November the 8th. Do you know what the number 8 represents?
New beginnings.
Come on now, Donna. That's right. I ain't messing with no rookie over here. That's right. That's right.
Yes.
New beginning.
It's new beginnings. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, this will always be a special day because I launched my new site and I'm very proud of that. Talkmantalk.com. And, you know, I've been working on this site for about 6 months. And it really represents what I'm looking to do, and I'm looking to reach a worldwide audience. I'm looking to get these principles, of course, you know, nationwide and in schools, and so we're definitely going to. I definitely look forward to connecting with you and
Yeah.
seeing how we can share our gifts. You know, join our gifts together, and you know, help hurting people.
Yeah, and so if people, want to reach out to get you to come speak at the schools or any setting that's going to benefit, their kids, their community, how can they reach out to you to, get your service?
Yeah, and you know we're on social media, so I have all the platforms: Facebook, YouTube. You can find me on YouTube at Talkman Talk. It's, you know, Talkman Talk is, you can Google me, right? You can Google Talkman Talk, right? But my website, talkmantalk.com, TalkMantalk.com. You know, I have a tour that I'm doing. Ounce of Prevention is worth a pound of cure tour.
Right.
Um, because I want to use, you know, my gift and my book and the materials as a proactive approach. Because if we can help kids not become or get trapped in active addiction, how much easier will life be for them and the people who love them?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, but the principles will help people who have already crossed that line and now looking to recover.
Hmm.
But what happens on the front side if we use my experience, strength, and hope, right,
Yes,
to as a proactive approach to help students not cross that line? We
right.
help them to discover their purpose. Hey,
Absolutely.
look, what's inside of you? What are you good at? Because let me tell you something. In my profession, right? Um, I work as a missions representative, And I meet people on a weekly basis who have gone to school, who have a degree, who have made, who, have an income, and they're miserable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know why? Because they went to school to shine the wrong thing. They made a decision based on economic potential. So what happens when we do that? When parents say, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a lawyer. Well, that's maybe not, is that the gift that God put in them? So they go to school, but they might not be, right? They may be an artist or a preacher
Right,
or,
right,
right? And
right.
so we have to help them discover that. We've made that decision for them.
Mm.
And so now they go to school, they become a lawyer, and they're miserable. So now guess what? They want to medicate pain. So
Right.
now they get into these activities.
Yes.
When all of that could have been avoided if we helped them in the front end discover
And
what
say,
is your purpose.
what is your purpose?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. That's good. I'm
Mm.
telling you, I can't even hardly sleep at night. I'm ready to really to really go and speak to schools and universities and take these principles. I'm sending some of these principles down to Deion Sanders down in Jackson State University. Love what he's doing,
Great.
and teaching those young men, not just how to be great athletes, but how to be responsible, productive members of society.
And that's what it's about. Is we got to get back to the basics.
Back to the basics. Yeah.
Back to
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite artist, you don't know nothing about Frankie Beverly and Mays, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I
he's
do. I do like.
back to the
Listen.
basics.
Yeah, I do. I do. I look. I'm not a look. I mean, I am a seasoned. I am seasoned now.
That's right. That's right.
I am seasoned. So yeah, but no, but it was just great interviewing you. Like I said, when I met you during the premiere, I was like, I love his energy. He has what we need. We really and truly need it. We
Yeah.
really and
Yeah.
truly
And
need
I need it too. Really.
it.
It works both ways,
Yeah, and
right?
I needed to because I'm telling you, when I was looking at these principles, I was sitting at my desk. I was like, let me see what God said about all these words. And so and I went to them and I was like, wow, we got to get back to the basics. And
Yes.
when
Well,
we
that tests
African
me right there.
Americans, all we had was faith. If we
That's
didn't
it.
have anything else, we had faith. We knew who Christ was, whether we walked in it or not, but our homes were based on faith. Grandmother prayed when she didn't know what she was going to do. So
That's right.
we saw,
Absolutely.
we saw.
Yes. Absolutely. And to your point, like we have a responsibility. You know, I see, and we see it. We see kids, who parents want to allow them say, well, we're going to let them be who they are.
Mhm,
Well, they don't know how to be who they are.
mhm.
I was telling a young lady I was coaching, her son, and I don't look to judge anybody, right? I don't have the power. But when a kid looks in the mirror and their hair is not done, right, and they see that every day, what kind of pride, what kind of
Absolutely.
image does that put in their mind about themselves,
Absolutely.
right? I
Absolutely.
can just wear my clothes hanging off of me, I'm slouching, and I look. It's easy for that person to get trapped into
Right.
something that's not going to serve them well.
Right. My light went out on me, but you still can see me. But yeah,
Yeah,
but and that's like with my children. When my oldest son wanted to, freedom of expression to do braids, I was like, okay, well, you can do braids, but this is how this is gonna work. When you take it out, it ain't gonna be no comb stuck in your hair. You're gonna take it out,
right.
wash it, and you're gonna go get it braided. Or we can go to the barber shop, point blank.
Yeah. See, you put a process in place, and
Point blank.
you govern that, right?
Right.
And so, again, freedom doesn't come by just letting it all hang out. It's
Absolutely.
contemplated thought and correct corresponding action. That's what gives us the highest degree of freedom.
Absolutely. And so I just want to take the time out again to say thank you. I really and
You're
truly
welcome.
have enjoyed this. And like I said, leave us with one encouraging thing that you want us to remember about just our purpose.
There's no substitute for purpose. There's no substitute for purpose. And once we discover what our purpose is,
Right.
it will put us on a path of success. You can't beat a person who has discovered why they are here. They can't stop themselves when they discover why they are here.
Well, we all have a purpose, and it's up to us to figure it out and ask them.
Yeah.
All we gotta do
We
is
got to
ask
help.
them.
We got to help one another, right? We study one
Absolutely.
another, and we talk to one another, and we're honest with one another, and we share. You know, we become vulnerable. You know, a lot
Yeah,
of people. I don't never try to say that I don't fall short. You know, I'm not proud
absolutely.
about some of the things I did in my life, in my past life, but you know, me sharing my story may help somebody.
Absolutely. And how does it feel to be clean for so long?
I haven't forgotten, Donna. You know, I haven't been asked that question in a long time. Um, But when I call my mom and I can hear, you know, she's proud of me. When
Right.
I talk on the phone with my dad and I talked to him today and, you know, I can hear in his voice, he's not worried about me. Cause my dad
Right.
said, don't even tell nobody you my son. I'm so embarrassed. Right. And he doesn't have to do that today. You know, he has my card up, you know, in his room and, you
Right.
know, there's so many benefits and rewards that I get from the discipline of practicing these principles, um, that you know I the drugs and alcohol are not a problem for me anymore.
Right.
It's how I live.
Mm,
It's how I live, practicing these principles so I don't make a decision that would cause me enough pain that wants me to medicate again and be trapped all over again.
absolutely. Well, I am so thankful. So thankful.
Thank you. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
I have your contact number,
Yeah,
and I will look to connect offline so that we can kind of see how we can collaborate.
absolutely. Absolutely. But you did good getting on Facebook. So, and then,
Yeah, I'm not a tech person. I'm not techie at all.
yeah. And so all you got to do is just end it on your side, and then I still do my closing. But thank you. Thank you so much. And let's
Okay.
collaborate soon. Let's collaborate soon.
Much love and respect to you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye. Guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Hot Topics with Donna. I'm your host, Donna. And on Hot Topics with Donna, we interview ordinary people doing extraordinary things in their lives and in their communities. Guys, if you just came on, go back and watch the replay. Um, Tim gave us some very great principles to live by, whether we've been addicted or what, it doesn't matter what situation you are in. These are 7 principles that you can follow and live by. And it was so amazing that when I looked these up, I went to see what God says. And so his 12 principles to inner peace are honesty, integrity, forgiveness, hope, willingness, acceptance, faith, humility, courage, awareness, discipline, and gratitude. And if we practice all of these principles, then that would lead us to having inner peace with ourselves. Guys, remember to love yourself where you are. As Tim and I was talking, if you don't know your purpose, ask the Father, he'll tell you. But you have to have a listening ear and an open heart to receive it. And make sure that you're asking your children, what are you good at? What do you think your purpose is? We have to do better. You, me, we all have to do better because we're losing our youth at an alarming rate, but we have to get back to the basics. Here on Hot Topics, we interview ordinary people doing extraordinary things in their lives and in their community. If you are someone that has a story or a service that you would like for people to know about, all you have to do is inbox us, and our content people will schedule an interview, and we can sit down and have some honest, open, and transparent conversations here on Hot Topics with Donna. I love you guys. Be blessed. Have an amazing rest of the week. And remember, love yourself. Good night. Bye.